Hello everyone and welcome back to Cooking with Suzanne. So it's baking season and I know everyone is very excited to be in the kitchen making cookies and pies and cakes. And today we're going to make a nice delicious festive cake, a Mandarin orange cake. And you'll be quite surprised, but I'm going to use a box mix to get us started so that it'll be a little bit easier for everyone in their kitchen. So I started off with a yellow cake mix, which you can get any brand that you happen to really like. The other store-bought product that we're going to use are 3 cans of Mandarin oranges. They're 11 ounce each. So let's start with the cake. I've already made the cake. I actually used 2 9-inch cake pans. You can use the 8-inch cake pan if that's what you have at home as well. And I just changed up a couple of things to make it very delicious. The box mix calls for 1 cup of water. I used 3/4 of a cup of water and added 1/4 cup of fresh squeezed orange juice to make my total 1 cup. The other thing that I added at the end after I whipped it up was folded in 1 large orange zested, the zest of 1 large orange, and also the zest of 1 lemon, just to make it really fragrant and bright and delicious. So those are the 2 changes that I made for the cake. But other than that, it's the eggs, the oil, and the water. And what I did is I used a knife like this. It has a little serrated edge to it, and I split each cake in half, so that I now have 4 halves. And it's quite thin, but it holds up very nicely. What's really nice about this recipe, keep in mind, is that I made everything 1 day in advance. So you can make it all in advance and then assemble it and refrigerate it, and you'll be all set and ready to go. So what else does this Mandarin orange cake have? Well, it has the Mandarin oranges. Very, very important to take your oranges, strain them, get rid of all the liquid, and then dry them on several layers of paper towel. Now this is for decoration. I picked 40 nice Mandarin orange slices to use to decorate the outside of the cake. The rest of the Mandarin oranges I diced up, which is going to go into the filling that you can see here. So I just diced it up. Once again, sitting on paper towel so it can absorb most of the moisture. The other thing I made was an orange curd. Now this orange curd you can make up to 3 days in advance, and I will give you that recipe later on in the video. So what's different about this particular orange curd is it still has the same ingredients as a standard curd, which is sugar, eggs, and orange juice. I also added some lemon juice to it. But to this one, to make it more stabilized and tighter, I added some flour to it when I cooked it on the stove. So this is a very thick curd, which is going to hold up really well as a filling. And then I just buttered a piece of parchment and I put it on top. There's also orange and lemon zest in the curd as well, which is really, really delicious. So I'm going to just take off the parchment, and to this curd we're going to fold in some whipping cream. 2.5 cups of whipping cream. So here is my whipping cream. What's really nice to know, if you have a KitchenAid, put your bowl and your whisk in the refrigerator and get it very chilled, and then your heavy cream will whip up very, very quickly. So I already have my whipping cream all whipped up. It's nice and stiff. And what I added to it to give that orange flavor is a little bit of Grand Marnier. You can use Cointreau or any type of orange liqueur. So once it started whipping up and it was getting a little bit firm, I added 3 tablespoons of Grand Marnier to the whipping cream. So you can see my whipping cream, 2.5 cups. So the first thing that you want to do is take a little bit, about 1/4 cup. You want to loosen up your curd because the curd is very tight. So I'm just going to loosen this up. So half of it is going to be for the filling. The other half is for the icing on the outside of the cake. And also, we're going to top the cake with some toasted coconut. I love coconut. And all I did was just take about 4 ounces of sweetened coconut, and I toasted it in the oven at 325 degrees until it was just nice and golden brown. Keep in mind, coconut burns very easily. So what I do is I check it every 5 minutes. I think this actually took about 15 minutes. Once again, you can do this ahead of time as well. Here is the rest of our whipping cream in this bowl. So now I'm just going to pour the curd into the rest of the whipping cream. Take a nice wide spatula and just fold it in. You're just going around and you're folding it in. So as I said, half of it is going to be the filling and the other half is going to be for the icing. So let's just take 2 bowls and divide it up. And I'm just eyeballing it. Now we'll take one for the filling here, and to that I'm going to fold in these diced mandarin oranges. So let's just get the oranges into the curd and the whipped cream. Once again, you just want to fold the oranges into the mixture. Now, of course, you could make your own cake. You don't need to use a box mix. I was trying to make this a little bit easier for everyone and more enticing to try to make this. So, of course, you can make your own cake, and you can make a sponge cake, an orange flavored sponge cake. You can certainly make a regular yellow cake if you prefer. Even angel food cake would even be very nice. So if you prefer to make your own, by all means do so. So that is all there is for our ingredients. We have whipped cream for the outside, we have our filling, we have our toasted coconut, and we have our cake. So I have a cake stand here, and I just put a doily into the center of the cake stand. And just so that I don't get too much of the icing on the outside all around our dish, if you just take little pieces of either wax paper, parchment paper, and just go around to cover the outside, and it'll be just enough to tuck underneath the cake. And then we can pull these strips out and we'll have a nice clean plate. Okay. So let's start with the cake. By the way, let me first just get one bottom on. Okay. So let's turn this over. Okay. You can brush each layer with a little additional Grand Marnier if you like. This cake feels very nice and moist. I don't think it honestly needs it. You could even put a layer of jam if you wanted to do a cranberry or a raspberry. They all go very nicely with orange. So that's up to you, but I'm going to leave it just as it is right now. All right, let's get started with filling the cake, which is very simple to do. Close to the edge. That looks nice and even. Try to make it even if you can. Now let's put our next layer on and do the same thing. Let's get another layer on here, and then we will put the final amount of filling on top here. There we go. Okay, our last layer is going to go on, and it will go on cut side down, so you have a nice flat surface here. And now we can start to put the icing over the top of the cake. Okay, looks good. Get some on the top. And of course we need to ice the sides of the cake. What's really nice about this cake, it's full of wonderful flavor, citrus flavor, but it's going to be very light and not heavy, and very enjoyable to have a slice after a nice festive dinner. So what's really nice about the cake, I just went all the way around. You know, it looks very homemade. It doesn't look like it came from a bakery. It looks like it came from your very warm, loving kitchen, which is what the holidays are all about. And I love the way it looks. Now we can get the toasted coconut on top. So just take your coconut and sprinkle on top. And try to get a little bit along the sides as well. So I have a little bit of coconut here, and I'm just going to try to lean it a little bit to try to get a little bit on the sides. So what you want to do is just take your tray and pull out the paper. And if you have a little bit of coconut on your platter, it's okay. So now we get to decorate the top of the cake. I have a pastry bag, which you absolutely don't need. And I just have a star tip in my bag. And it's just because I have some extra whipping cream here. Actually, the icing. There's not much, but I figured we can use it. So here is my bag. And you can just go around the top, like that there, and just make little rosettes. Just kind of space them apart, about an inch or so around the top of the cake. And then we'll put the orange slices in between. side. And there we go. And what you're going to do is put one in between each of the rosettes and just going in the same direction. And after the cake is completely assembled, you can put this in your refrigerator for a good 8 hours. And it will even hold in your refrigerator loosely covered with foil, very loosely covered, for up to about 3 days. Okay. I have a few that you can even put down around the side of the cake, since I have enough to do that. I thought cranberries would look very pretty, and cranberry and orange, as you know, goes very nicely together. So you don't have to do this, but these are edible, they are sweet, and they are fully cooked. So I kind of like that idea. So I'm just going to put a few cranberries to make it look nice and festive on the top. And not too many. Let's take a look here. I think this cake will serve easily 10 to 12 people, depending on how thick you cut the slices, but I would say 10 to 12 servings should be about right. So let me come around and show you the cake. Here is, hopefully you can see the top of it. Here is our Mandarin orange cake. And we will let this chill. It is good to let it set up for a little bit. Let it chill. Here you go. There's another nice view. Okay, so that's our holiday cake for 2021. I hope that you get a chance to try it. It's really delicious. Okay, everyone, take care. Happy holidays. So here are our ingredients to make our curd for the filling. So the first thing you want to do is have a medium-sized saucepan, and we're going to put in 3/4 of a cup of granulated sugar into the pan. And I have here, which makes it different from most curds, we're adding flour. And the reason for the flour is to make it more stabilized and a little bit thicker, so that we can fold in a good amount of whipped cream into our filling. So this is 1/3 of a cup of flour. And you also want to put about 1/4 of a teaspoon of kosher salt. Now you want to just whisk the flour and sugar and salt, and then we will slowly whisk in our juices. I have 2/3 of a cup of freshly squeezed orange juice, and I have 3 tablespoons of freshly squeezed lemon juice. I also have here 2 eggs that have been 2 large eggs that have been whisked. And I just wanted to show you that I also zested 1 large orange and 1 lemon that's going to get folded into the curd after we have cooked it. And now I'm just going to take the juices and whisk it into the sugar and flour. So there's our 3 tablespoons of lemon juice, and now you can see that it's nice and liquidy here. There you go. And now I will put this on the flame on medium heat to start, and I'm going to go ahead and whisk in our beaten eggs. And this is, I have it on low. I turned it to low immediately. this is going to get nice and thick, and then I will pass it through a strainer into this bowl, and then we will then add our lemon zest and our orange zest. I have 1 orange zested and 1 lemon zested, and I have it all set and ready to go. So now you just want to be patient, keeping this on low and waiting for it to cook and get nice and thick. I'm going to just show you how it's definitely getting much, much thicker. I think you can see that it's really thickening very nicely. There you go. It's nice and thick. I usually like to wait till it just kind of bubbles once in the pot, and then I know it's definitely right where I want it. Okay, I'm seeing little bubbles, and so it's ready. So we shut this off, take the bowl with the strainer and a rubber spatula, and let's just pass it through. Make sure it's nice and smooth. Just pass it right through. Just to make sure that there's no egg particles. I'm just passing it through. So this is really nice and thick. It's exactly the way you want it. Okay. Let's show it to you. It looks beautiful. So now at this point you want to put a piece of saran, or you can use wax paper or parchment paper that's been buttered. Lay it directly on top so it does not form a skin. Let this come to room temperature and then refrigerate it for at least 2 to 3 hours. So I'm not sure how I did that, but I thought I had pushed play and I didn't. And so when I went to shut it off, I actually pushed play. So I just wanted you to know that I went ahead and put the lemon and orange zest into the curd. Folded it in nicely, and then took a piece of buttered parchment and put it right on top. So our zest is now in the curd. Okay, so now we are officially all set and ready to go.